Siomra
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture. Sure Look, Sure Listen.
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 Sure look, sure listen. Very good, Ben. We're back after an unexpected and last-minute hiatus last week, brought on by a very, very sudden dose of the clap. Benjamin.
Jesus fucking Christ.
But I didn't say whose the clap it was. I see you're
Everybody
the clap.
assumes it's you.
I see the clap is acting up, Benjamin. Benjamin. Sure,
Yeah.
look, we don't have time to talk about any of that because we have 2 weeks of content, Ben. Hot, steaming wads of content.
Yes, big old piles of content.
Big old wads of content shooting out of your earphones straight into your ear holes. Benjamin, we're going to be taking a look at Diabolical, whatever the hell that is.
Yeah.
And you've also seen Vox Machina. I'm going to pronounce that correctly, Ben. I'm going to pronounce this correctly because I'm cool now. Benjamin, while you were watching that, I was watching Netflix's show Archive 81.
Very good, Michael.
And there's been a whole rake of trailers in the last 2 weeks, Ben. Last but not least, that's completely the wrong phrase, The Boys Season 3 and Ms. Marvel.
Yes, those were neither last nor least, Michael, because sure, listen, if that wasn't enough for you, we're going to be taking a look at a topic very close to our hurts, Michael, very close to the sound level hurts, and we're probably going to take a little look at grim and gritty. Why is that still a thing in 2022, Michael? Why are we still making things so dark?
What is it still about, Benjamin? Benjamin!
What's going on? Yeah.
Speaking of grim and gritty, you have seen Diabolical, the Amazon Prime animated series. There's no such thing as a grim and gritty animated series. Benjamin, I'm so cool. I've just got a glimpse of myself there in the little preview window. I'm so cool today.
Michael, you're so cool.
Look at me, I'm so cool.
In kind of camaraderie with the theme, ladies and gentlemen, Michael is sporting a pair of fetching, I don't know what you call those style of glasses, Michael. I'm not cool, you see, so I don't know what they're called.
Sunglasses. Ben.
Sunglasses, yes. I see. They're sunglasses, ladies and gentlemen. I'm being told that all the cool kids are wearing them because of a young man called Elvis. And he's apparently all the rage lately. He plays, if you can believe this, listeners, an electric guitar.
Very good. Welcome to the 1950s. Ben, talk about Diabolical.
Michael, if you're a fan of Amazon Prime and the content they put out, and we are because we watch it quite often, you'll probably have seen The Boys Season 1 and 2 on the old Amazon Prime, Michael, and we've been waiting a while to get Season 3.
Where is it?
Where is it? Why isn't it here yet? Well, we'll get to that a little bit later, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, clearly taking inspiration from the likes of Love, Death and Robots, Michael.
And the Animatrix. The creators of The Boys, Eric Kripke and the lads, have gotten together and they've put out a bloody little animated anthology, Michael. Oh, it sounds a lot like, Ben, like the Animatrix.
It sounds an awful lot like the Animatrix, Michael, or something like Love, Death and Robots. Because each episode, Michael, is set in a different aspect of The Boys world.
Go on.
And in a very different animation style with a whole host of new actors and stuff. So we have some episodes written by Andy Samberg. We've got one episode written by Gina Torres. We've got another one written by Justin Roiland.
I've heard of all of those people, Ben.
You have indeed, Michael. And they're all little mini vignettes set in the boys' world. And Michael, when I tell you, I'd say they're kicking themselves for not making animated from the start. Oh, this is little chef's kiss.
Is it delicious and delightful, Ben? What sort of things are going on?
Oh, there's a whole load of things going on, Michael. So episode 1 sees us in the universe of The Boys, and we take a look at a classic. I mean, I think it depends on what way you watch them. I think it's another one of those snaky boys. But the first one is in a Looney Tunes style, Michael.
Go on.
Yeah, get out of here. And it's a completely silent cartoon, but for grunts and groans, Michael. It's like a classic, I guess, Tasmanian devil kind of romp. But in this particular one, it's about the famous Laser Eye Baby.
I'm familiar with Laser Eye Baby.
Yeah. So in this, we're introduced to a Voight lab technician called Simon, and his job is to assess babies for the Voight program, for the adoption program, if their powers are going to be any use or not. But he gets attached to his little baby, Michael, and she fails because she can't control her powers, even though she has quite a lethal set of powers, Michael, which are liquefying eyeballs.
Like your favourite character, Cyclops.
Yes, Cyclops, Michael. But this time, it's actually dangerous. It can cut things in half and whatnot.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. So it's a kind of a baby's day out. Do you remember the classic cartoon from the Animaniacs about the German Shepherd dog who had to look after the little baby?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that, but with superpowers and super gross, gory stuff because it's set in the boys' world.
Good.
Yeah, then that brings us. Yeah, it's very good, Michael. Very good. That brings us into Justin Roiland's little go-around, Michael. And in that one, we get to see Rick and Morty style world of reject superheroes. And when the news breaks that Vought superheroes are chemically made in a lab, Michael, because remember, that's quite the revelation in the TV series. These reject superheroes, the ones that are kept in kind of a... I guess it's the big farm for reject superheroes.
Oh, like the fellow with the penis.
Yeah, something like that. So there's Boob Face, there's the Ghost, who's just completely intangible, but still gets hungry. She doesn't need to eat, but she still gets hungry. There's Giganto, who's giant in various places and misshapen. There's Fireballs, whose testicles can melt anything. And you really get the idea as you go along there, Michael. But in response to finding out that Vought has made them in a lab, all of these children have been surrendered back to Vought because the parents aren't happy with what happened. Basically, they were sold, let your kid take Vought chemicals and they'll be a superhero. But they got a bunch of duds, Michael. So it's all about their revenge plot, Michael. And Christian Slater plays a baby with a perfect narrator's voice who is called the narrator, and his ability is to be omnisciently aware of all things but not influence them.
That's
so he's the narrator.
That's a very good power.
It's a rubbish power because you can't really do much with it, but it's great for the premise of this particular thing. So that's number 2. That's quite a joy as well. And they've kind of front-loaded the good episodes towards the front, Michael. That's the only criticism I'd have of it. The third one is a lovely little homage to the comic itself. It features Wee Huey from the actual comic book as a Scottish man, as he was intended to be, Michael.
Oh, it's not Jack Quaid anymore.
It's not Jack Quaid in this particular one because it's a comic book heavy representation, and it's about one of their famous setups, and you get to watch kind of a Garth Ennis classic. That was actually written by Garth Ennis himself for this little anthology, Michael.
Oh, he took a break from hanging around out the front of my house.
No, he was still there, Michael. He penned it on your windowsill.
Oh, very good.
And sent it in via electronic message.
Very good. Electronic mail. I'm familiar with it. Benjamin.
Yes. Yeah.
How many of these are there? How many of these are going on?
There's 8 in the episode. 8 in the season. 8 in this season, Michael.
And what's the time commitment I've going to do to this? So can I watch this evening?
They are 15 to 20 minute minis. 15 minutes on is the longer end of the scale.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so you knock them out in an afternoon.
Like the Animatrix. Are you familiar with the Animatrix?
Yeah, it's a little bit like the Animatrix, Michael, or the Netflix series Love, Death and Robots.
Which itself was quite like the Animatrix. Benjamin!
Yes.
I tell you what, I'm going against our running order because...
You fucking bastard.
I've watched the thing as well, Benjamin.
What have you watched?
With Jack Quaid in it. I've watched Scream 5. And I've just remembered.
Get it down!
I've just remembered because Scream 5 is out now on video on demand, as we say, Ben, in the young people
VOD.
culture. On VOD, in our young people cool guy culture. And it's all right, I tell you what, it's all right.
Do you know who's a huge fan of VOD, Michael?
Who's a huge fan of VOD?
A young man shaking up the music scene called Elvis.
I have to say, you got me there. I have to say, you did get me there. You did. With your snaky hips. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack Quaid is in Scream 5, and Scream 5 is all right. Benjamin.
Why is Screen 5 just all right? Hang on, you can't just introduce something into the running order and then whisk it away.
No, that's all I have to say about it. That's all I have to say about it. I don't want to go too much into spoilers. I watched Scream 4 and Scream 5 on the same day, Ben, realising I hadn't seen 4. And I tell you what, all them Scream films, Ben, they're quite similar.
Right.
Yeah, who's doing stabbings? That's what they should have been called.
Is it this guy? Nope. Well, you're wrong.
Who do you think's doing the stabbing, basically? It should have been
not
called.
Him. Oh, what's that? A red herring. Have you ever tried red herring? Here's some now.
Quite smoky. Quite smoky, delicious. Benjamin.
Quite smoky, yeah.
I have watched something, though. I have watched Archive 81 on Netflix. Have you ever heard of or seen Netflix?
Yeah, it's quite hip, Michael. It's shaking up the video scene.
Yeah.
But you have to have one of those internet connections that I've heard so much about.
That's it. You're very good. You did a very solid kind of man from the 50s bit today.
Yeah.
Benjamin,
yes.
I've watched Archive 81, Benjamin. It's based on a podcast. It's a television series on Netflix based on a podcast, based on a classic murder mystery, What's Horrible and What's Going On podcast.
Oh, that's cool.
And Benjamin, as you well know, I hate anything based on a podcast.
You do, Michael. You so much so that you quite often flagellate yourself directly after this one.
Yes, I do. Sometimes during, Ben, but I have a special sound dampening device. Benjamin.
Yeah.
I tell you what, though. I thoroughly enjoyed Archive 81, Benjamin. It spoke to all of my very niche interests. Not all of them, Ben, because then they wouldn't have been allowed to put it on television. But the public ones.
Yeah, that wouldn't pass, public decency laws.
They wouldn't get it through, Ben. Benjamin.
Yeah.
It's there's a man, okay? Imagine there's a man.
Right, okay, I'm imagining it.
And his job is fixing old tapes.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And, Ben, I'm into that. That already got my attention because I love old technology.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, so he's fixing old tapes, Ben, but what if one of the set of old tapes ends up being a very mysterious set of old tapes about an apartment building where there's weird goings-on?
Oh, I wouldn't watch that, Michael. I wouldn't touch those tapes.
You wouldn't touch them, Ben, but what if you did touch them? And the very act of touching them ended up, Ben, dragging you into the mystery itself.
Oh, that's no good, Michael. That's no good.
Isn't that good, Ben? Isn't that great? And what if, Benjamin, what if there was a weird cult in your apartment building, Ben, and they really had a great idea of summoning some sort of hellish outer god type monstrosity into our universe?
Oh dear.
Ben, you wouldn't want it.
I wouldn't want anything to do with it.
So, Benjamin, I've taken to, in the tradition on the podcast of calling things exactly what they are, established by there are too many ghosts in my house, and there are too many ghosts in this other British house. I have taken to calling Archive 81, oh no, there's a cult in this apartment building.
Oh, yeah. That would be a great name for a podcast, Michael. We should probably
Yes, it would. Maybe a bit long-winded.
Cult to my apartment building.
But I tell you what, Ben, it's great.
Go on.
There's Lovecrafts.
Is it?
There's Lovecrafts. There's 80s. There's 90s. There's old technology. There's mystery. There's possessions. There's gore. It's great. It's brilliant.
That sounds like it's right up our street, Michael.
Right up my street, anyway, Benjamin. It'd probably spook you a bit too much. You'd probably be a bit frightened.
I'm a very gentle boy, Michael, because I'm a man from the 50s, you see.
Very good. Have you heard this new rock and roll music, Benjamin?
Yeah,
on the wireless.
I was going to make a joke there, but it would be pushing the bit too far and it'd be too accurate. So I'm going to leave that now, Michael, and move on from there. I've also watched something else, Michael.
Hold on, Benjamin.
Yeah.
You know what was weird about it, though?
What? Go on, tell me more.
Guess what turned out to be a big part of the big bad? Now I know
Irish
that's a very
racism.
No, it wasn't Irish racism, Ben. It was black mold again.
Black mold?
It's always black mold. That's the fourth thing in 2 years I've enjoyed where the baddie turned out to be black mold.
Does Hollywood have a chronic black mold issue?
It seems to be that Hollywood has a chronic black mold issue because
it's a real risk.
In House on Haunted Hill, no, Hill House. The Haunting of Hill House? There's too many ghosts in this house.
There's too many ghosts in this house 1.
Yeah, there's too many ghosts in this house 1. That was black mold, Ben. Resident Evil 7 and 8, that was black mold.
Yeah.
And now, watch out, there's a cult in the apartment building, also black mold. Hollywood is scared shitless of black mold.
It's a real threat, Michael. It's a real threat.
I'll tell you what, Ben.
It's a real risk to the health.
I looked it up, and you would be very surprised. It doesn't. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't. Like, you don't want to be breathing in a load of mold, but black mold is in itself no more dangerous than most other molds. This is not medical advice, Ben, obviously, but
You dirty anti-molder.
yeah, I'm pro molder.
No, you're pro Mulder. That's why you have that little fan group.
That's my little the foxes we call ourselves. Benjamin, it's good though. I'd say give it a little watch.
I love it.
Give it a little watch. Benjamin, have you watched anything else?
I have, Michael. I went and took a look at Vox Machina, Michael.
Benjamin, I've never heard of it or seen it. What the hell is that?
So, Michael, there's a huge wave of popular kind of play along or watch us play content, but not for video games, Michael.
Although there is that too, Ben.
There is that too, Michael. That's kind of where the genre spawned, I suppose you might put it. But, Michael, now you can tune in to a YouTube channel.
If you want
a long old video, and you can see, you might see a whole game of D&D, Michael, played out, a whole campaign.
Oh, I could just watch a film, though, instead.
Played out in front of you. So two of the very popular ones, Michael. One of them is from College Humor, who you might know.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
Pack of comedians.
Yeah.
They're called, I think it's Dimension 40, I think is the name of that little channel. And you can watch literally 6 comedians play through a campaign in D&D, homebrew D&D settings. And you can follow along and watch along, and it's a very enjoyable time. But the more popular one, and the one that kind of really solidified this strange genre of watch along, is Critical Role. Have you heard of Critical Role, Michael?
Benjamin, is that the one where they have nerd celebrities playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Correct. They have voice acting nerd celebrities playing
who
Dungeons
might you
and
get?
Dragons. You might get... I have none of the names in front of me, Michael. You've really stumped me here. This is terrible news.
Grade A podcasting. Don't look it up. I'll look it up while you spin your wheels.
Okay, you look it up while you spin your wheels. But in Vox Machina, Michael, this is based on one of the original campaigns from Critical Role, and it was very, very popular, Michael. So much so that it was heavily watched. And Amazon Prime, being the giant media conglomerate that it is, got in touch with them. We're like, hey, would you like to make this into a cartoon with us? And
Travis Willingham.
Travis Willingham, Michael. Yeah, anybody else there?
Laura Bailey.
Yeah. World-renowned voice actress Laura Bailey.
She is.
Yes, I know. That's why I said it.
Yes. Sam Rigel.
Classic Sam Riegel.
Yeah, could be it too. Felicia Day. Oh, I've heard of her.
You've heard of Felicia Day. You know Felicia Day.
Deborah Ann Woll.
Deborah Ann Woll. Classically, famously, Karen from Daredevil.
Classic Karen. Oh, that's excellent. All right. Right, go on.
It's got some great people in it, Michael, and it's around one of their original parties, Michael, Vox Machina, which is comprised of Gorg, who's their big barbarian type. It's comprised of Pix Trickfoot, who's their healer and little gnomish creature. Scanlan is their bard. He's a little kind of promiscuous gnome type fella.
Oh yeah, I know one very well.
You've got Vex and Vax, who are a pair of half-elvish twins.
It's you. I'm saying it's you.
I know. I saw what you were saying, Michael. I just decided not to touch it. You know,
I was calling you
the gonorrhea.
Yeah, the old clap from earlier.
So come here to me, Michael.
Benjamin,
you Vex and Vax.
You got such a bad dose of the clap, Ben. It wasn't a clap. It was a round of applause.
Oh. This is awful. I had a very heavy chest infection and thought I might have COVID again. I thought I had literally finished my 3-month COVID period and gone, no.
Excellent.
Not again. No, it was just a nasty chest infection, which keen-eared listeners might still hear hanging around my nasal tones. It's great. Anyway, Michael, you've Vex and Vax, elvish half-twins. You've got Percival, who's kind of a steampunk character that's been thrown in there.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, get rid of him. Boo to the steampunkers. Boo. And you've got... her name is going to escape me. Kiki, sorry. You've got Kiki, who's you might know more about this than I would now, Michael. She's kind of a nature druid.
Okay, go on.
Spellcaster of some kind. Anyway, they're all very good, Michael. It's a very adult-themed thing. It's not for kids. Because there's lots of nudity, cartoon nudity. There's lots of...
Cartoon... Ben, you had me at cartoon nudity.
There's lots of cussing. There's lots of serious violence, Michael.
Oh, my God.
We're kind of living in a golden age of adult animation, Michael, to be honest. But anyway, that's happening. It's a whole campaign. It's based on one of their original campaigns, the Briarwood campaign, where you have to retake Whitehall from the evil Briarwoods. And it's very good, Michael. Very good. I won't go into spoilers. It's very enjoyable. It's clearly a cast of people that have a lot of chemistry with each other, and it just makes for a very enjoyable watch. The animation is very strong. And
Benjamin, have they recreated it from scratch? With the same actors and whatnot?
I think it's majority same actors, yeah. Same actors.
Very good.
So it's just done as an animated thing. And Michael, it's very enjoyable. It's 2 very strong animated entries from Amazon Prime this week.
That looks... Benjamin, is it worth watching? How many episodes are there? How long are they?
Again, you're dealing with... I think it's a tight 10.
Oh, a tight 10. Lovely, delicious and delightful. Well, that's my evening sorted out, Ben.
Yes, you'll be very busy, Michael, I think.
I'll tell you what I did watch the other day, though, Ben.
Go on.
Spider-Man Far From Home, which is now on VOD.
Oh, it's on VOD, Michael.
Not Far From Home, No Way Home.
Do you know who's a big fan of VOD, Michael?
Go on.
young man called Elvis.
Oh, is it Elvis? Yeah, the same fella from the 50s from earlier. Very good. Benjamin,
Yeah.
as well as all the stuff we've seen, there's non-stop new stuff coming out, Ben.
Oh, there's so much stuff being thrown at us in the next couple of weeks, Michael.
Benjamin, the deluge is happening. We're going to be, as we say here on the podcast, absolutely sopping in content. Benjamin.
Dripping in content.
Knee deep, Ben, in puddles of content. And I tell you what, we won't get into it very in depth, but there's a lot of new Moon Knight stuff.
Moon Knight. Yeah,
and I tell you what, Ben, he's very much supernatural in this. He's not just a normal man who's a bit mad.
No, he's got some powers, Michael.
He's got some powers and he's got some magic and he's got some magical costumes and all that sort of stuff, but we're very excited to see that in 10 days' time.
He makes stuff appear out of nowhere, Michael. He's got little anks.
Oh, he's doing all sorts of things. He's very angsty.
Little moonerangs.
Yes. Benjamin, he's very angsty. Ben.
Ha ha ha. Ha ha.
Thanks. I tell you what, Ben, also coming out is Michael Morbius, apparently.
Yeah, look, I reckon, Michael, we are going to pre-book tickets. We're going to go see that, and we're going to sit in the theatre, and as the lights dim, we will see a message that says, "How are you, lads? This is Sony. Gotcha. Won't be out till next year."
It is coming out on April Fool's Day, so maybe it's
maybe
not
it is.
real.
Maybe they're fucking with us.
Wouldn't that be the greatest April? That would be incredible. That will make me
give up on Sony.
No, I'd be all for it. I would be all for that, Ben. I would love to be sitting in the cinema and Michael Morbius comes up on screen and says, "Hello, it's me, Jared Leto, the world's most hated actor. I fooled you. I fooled you once again. This is one of my classic Jared Leto pranks."
There will be no refunds. Ha 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 ha.
This whole thing was a prank that I've played on you in preparation for my next role as the prankster.
Then he leaps about in Mark Hamill's costume from the 1990s Flash series.
Yeah, he absolutely gobshite. Benjamin!
Yeah.
But speaking of real trailers...
Yeah, go on.
You were talking there about Diabolique earlier, Ben.
Yes.
But Diabolique is a little an amuse-bouche before we get season 3 of The Boys, which apparently is coming.
Yeah, the classic Italian comic Diabolique has a huge influence on The Boys season 3, Michael, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, absolutely, this is kind of your aperitif, Michael. Is that before or after? No, I've said that wrong. I've gotten that wrong.
Yeah, it's an amuse-bouche.
It's an amuse-bouche. It's an amusing bouche, ladies and gentlemen, and it gives you a little taste and kind of gets you ready to dive back into the world of The Boys, because some of the actors make an appearance, Michael. We get the Deep, who's still trying to get back in with Voight, and that's played by the same voice actor as the actual actor.
But Ben, we're talking about the trailer now. You've gone back to the cartoon.
I know, but it's nice to see those characters, and it gets you tastefully put in. Anyway, sorry, to the trailer, Michael. Who the most heavily featured thing in that trailer is bloody Dean from Supernatural.
Dean is in it.
Jensen Ackles.
He's playing Captain America. If Captain America was horrible.
If Captain America was a real piece of work.
That seems to be his main thing, Benjamin. Benjamin.
Go on.
In the comic book.
Yes.
I don't think Billy Butcher ever got Homelander's powers, did he?
In the comics, Michael,
yes,
Butcher and the boys take their own version of Compound V so they can actually go toe-to-toe with superheroes.
Yes, but they don't get they just get the kind of Commoner Garden suite of super strength resilience.
Yeah, exactly. Just so they can give them a spanking, as Butcher says.
Yes, but in this it looks like Billy Butcher has got Homelander's powers. Yeah,
it looks like he's been taking the V on the side, Michael.
And he's going to be coming after Homelander to get him.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing that, Michael. I'd like to see those two duke it out. I feel like the man who plays Homelander, whose name escapes me again.
Very good.
What's his name? Jace?
Aaron Starr.
Yeah, Aaron Starr. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Anthony Starr.
It's Anthony Starr. Yeah, good man. Thanks for that, Jamie. Just pull that up there. Put it on the screen.
That up there, Jamie.
But yeah, I think he steals the show again. I think he's just going to dominate the show. I just want to watch Homelander.
He's very good, isn't he? But he's horrible.
He's far too good, Michael. He's far too good.
And
he's
horrible.
So bloody good. What else did you see in that trailer there, Michael? Go on, post some.
That's pretty much it, though, wasn't it? That was the rest of it is pretty. It looks like it's going to be a pretty exciting season of superheroes and gross stuff.
It's very glimpsy, Michael. Very glimpsy.
Yeah, it's more of a teaser than a trailer, really, Ben.
Yeah, but we sank our teeth into it nonetheless, Michael.
Go on.
It was just an enjoyable thing. We're going to see more political assassinations, Michael. We're going to see more people blowing up by the looks of things. Evil Congresswoman based on... What's her name?
Alexandra
Ocasio-Cortez, AOC.
That's her, yeah. That's her. That's the one.
As various libs put it.
Ben, you
yes.
lib. Benjamin.
Lib. Yes, go on.
Look, we'll give it a watch when it comes out. It'll be quite exciting. The bigger trailer, I felt. Well, maybe not, Ben. I don't know. Is it? I don't know. I don't know how well these Disney Plus Marvel shows are really doing.
A point of diminishing returns as usual, Michael.
I don't know.
Are they doing well?
I don't know, Ben. I don't know if they are doing well or not.
I had a very interesting point put to me there the other day. Hawkeye wasn't that good. Somebody rewatched it and said to me, we were duped. We got duped by the feel-good tones. If you go back and watch that series, not so good.
It's good. It's not great.
It's not great.
No, it's not great.
It's not what we've come to expect. Michael, we got a trailer this week for something else that maybe isn't going to be great. I don't know.
I tell you what, it didn't give me a lot of hope as a starting off point.
Look, it changed my voice. You know, I'm stuck like this now.
It got both of us, Ben. We're talking about Miss Marvel.
We're talking about Miss Marvel. And,
we're talking about Miss Marvel there.
Yeah, look, it's going for a real tone shift. Real style shift.
Yes, Benjamin. There's some commentators on the internet, Ben, who absolutely hated this.
Well, that's not surprising, Michael, is it?
No, exactly, Benjamin. Now, you might argue that they hated it for good or bad reasons. You might throw
I'd say
out
it's
the
probably
word
bad reasons, Michael.
Well, the funny thing about it is, it's how beloved is Miss Marvel?
Not.
Is her own comic still running?
I don't know. I know she has huge representative value to the Muslim community.
The teen Muslim girl community?
No, the Muslim community in general, I think, has kind of embraced... Well, that's a sweeping statement. I can't really back that up. But I know that it was a huge moment for... do you say Muslim Americans? Is that how we...
I think you can just call them American Muslims. Muslim isn't a race.
Muslims. Cool. American Muslims really embrace these characters in different places.
Didn't Lenny Kravitz have a song about that? American Muslims. No, about
Jesus Christ.
I think it was Lenny Kravitz who had that song, Ben.
No, I think it was Elvis.
It was Elvis, yeah, from the 50s.
So...
Grand lad. Sneaky
Elvis.
hips.
Grand bunch of lads. But come here to me, Michael. Very interesting tonally. Seems to be going for a book-smart Netflix teen drama vibe.
Yeah, I got a very much a Runaways vibe of it.
Yeah.
I've seen this before. I've already seen The Runaways. I've already seen Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
They've completely rejigged her origin, Ben.
She doesn't have any stretchy powers, Michael.
She doesn't have any stretchy powers. Now, we talked about this before, Ben, that stretchy powers have never been done well on screen in live action.
Very hard to do well.
And my contention is it can't be done well.
Go on, keep going.
Because it's body horror.
It is,
You can't do it in real life, photorealistic, and it not be horrible. Because
it breaks the human perception of things, because like, that's a human body. It's not supposed to do that.
Someone growing a big, huge, gross, veiny hand coming at you, that's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
I mean, you can do it in a cartoon where people don't have pores and blood vessels and bones and things like that. And you can do it on a comic panel. Piece of piss, Ben. But my contention is, Ben, and this is a hill I'll die on if need be. My contention is you cannot do a visually appealing, stretchy man, big stretchy hand in live action.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. You can die on that hill. I think that's a good hill to die on, in fairness.
I just don't think it can be done. But they've still given her a big hand, Ben.
Yeah, but it's a big hard light projection hand, Michael.
Yeah, she's got space magic, Ben. She's basically... They've gone, rather than going for Mr. Fantastic, they've gone for Green Lantern.
Yeah, exactly. What I want to know is, Michael, how influential was Brie Larson's Captain Marvel?
Yeah, she couldn't have seen it for more than a couple... Yeah, apparently very.
Like, this young lady was definitely born in the 2000s.
Yes.
The person who's going to play Kamala Khan. We only really saw Brie Larson's Captain Marvel from mid-90s, late 90s? I can't remember.
But she was secret. She was secret.
She wasn't a big deal.
The first the Earth publicly heard of her was when she flew down and blew up Thanos' spaceship and then got a big punch.
Yeah, but come here. Was that telebroadcasted to Earth?
I think it was. It must have been, because in Falcon and Winter Soldier, people knew who Bucky was.
And they shouldn't.
And
because he's the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but they didn't know he was the Winter Soldier. They just knew him as one of the people who fought that Thanos.
Thanos.
Yeah, fuck's sake. Benjamin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very strange that of all the heroes. But have there been other famous female heroes publicly in the Marvel Universe? I don't think so.
I don't think Black Widow was ever given that status. I think she was always supposed to be an operative behind.
Yeah, an operative. And Scarlet Witch obviously keeps blowing stuff up and mind controlling people.
She's more of an infamous role model than a...
Yeah. The Wasp isn't very famous. Maybe...
Nor should she be.
Nor should she be, because she's got a very severe haircut. Maybe...
Can't lead those young women astray.
No, you don't want everyone to have severe haircuts. Benjamin, maybe she's the only famous female superhero in that universe.
That's just one.
There's just one.
That's not shocking, is it? Marvel doesn't have a great track record in that regard.
They did, remember, they all teamed up. They all made a big line.
Oh yeah, do you remember that? That was great, wasn't it?
Benjamin, she's got what looks very much like the cosmic bangles of the original Captain Marvel, pre-Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, she got Marvel's old bangles.
She's got the bangles. What are they called, Ben? You're like a dictionary of...
I think they're quantum bands, aren't they? That's what they're called.
Are they? Or is that Quasar?
Quasar wears a couple of quantum bands, Michael, but I think it's roughly the same idea. Quasar used to have Quasar Force from the quantum bands, which is just...
He was great at laser tag, Ben.
It's comic booky stuff. Oh, I used to be up there in Tala all the time after he saved the world.
You're a bit of Quasar. Benjamin!
Yeah.
It's the least I've been excited about a Marvel show in quite a long time.
But I think that might... I'm not entirely certain that isn't the point, Michael. I think this is a radical departure in an attempt to get the next wave.
Go on board. The comic book next wave.
The comic book next... Not even the comic book next wave, Michael. I think we can now distinguish them as the MCU next wave. I think the continuity of Phase 3 is for older people. I think, we're kind of emerging out of that, and Kevin Feige has realized, there's a whole new generation. We're going to have to really get on board here and get some new people in. We
better pander to them. Oh, did I say pander? I didn't mean pander.
Well, it's too late. It's happening, Kevin. It's happening, Feige.
Yeah, take that cap off, Kevin. It's not cool anymore.
What's under the cap? Hashtag lift the cap. But look, I don't know what way it's going to go. I don't think it's intended for us, Michael. I think it's trying to tap into the zippy Gen Z teen movie. I think it's trying to tap into the...
Seeing red.
The trailer is almost cut like something from Euphoria. I don't know if you noticed that, Michael.
Go on.
Euphoria is the hugely popular HBO series with a bunch of very sexy high schoolers, arguably unbelievably sexy high schoolers that dress ridiculously for a high school environment, Michael, and just really have no parental guidance whatsoever. But it's
obviously you've never seen Riverdale.
Riverdale. That gem, that old chestnut. So it's cut a little bit like that, Michael. It's using a lot of neon and purples and reds, and Captain Marvel's color palette is being used as a lighting technique through a lot of the trailer, from what I can see. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of exciting. It looks like we're going to have a little bit of a reflection on toxic parenting from immigrant communities, that kind of thing, high expectations. A little bit in the style of Encanto, Michael, because Disney have realised, all we have to do is expose ethnic trauma, and that seems to do pretty well for us. So we're just going to...
Bloody hell.
Intergenerational ethnic trauma, that makes a lot of money for us, so let's just do that.
Coming next year from Pixar, it's a Serbian film.
Oh dear.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
At least with Moon Knight coming out, we've got something a bit grim and gritty to counteract all of this light-hearted stuff.
We do, thank God for that, Michael. But I tell you what, it doesn't half seem out of place in 2022. Because I tell you what, turn on the news, Michael. There it is. There's grim and gritty. That's reality.
There's grim and gritty for you. Yeah. The new reality is very grim and gritty, Ben.
I don't think I need that in my fantasy or my science fiction anymore, Michael. I think I'm good. I think I'm all topped up thanks to Sky News, which just does not quit, Michael, apparently.
Get off that 24-hour news cycle, Ben. Get off it.
It's not good for my mental health. Come here to me, Michael. You and I went to see The Batman.
I remember, Ben.
Yeah, it was very good, Michael. I went to see it a second time. You went to see it a second time.
You went to see it a second time?
I did. That's the first movie I've gone to see for a second time in decades.
How unlike you, Ben.
How unlike me, Michael. I went to see it with good friend of the podcast, Connor Dunn.
Oh, I know Connor. Was he late?
Yeah, he was late. He was.
Oh, very good.
No,
He's
I was
often
actually
late.
late this time. That's very unfair to Connor. I was the late one this time. I will not have Connor's good name besmirched on this podcast.
Oh, very
but
good.
went to see it a second time, Michael. But I remember sitting there going, gosh, this is grim and gritty.
It's so dark.
God, it's so dark. Literally, it's very hard to see things, Michael.
Yes.
Very hard
Benjamin,
to see things.
We've had some very good memes up on the Discord regarding how grim and gritty it was. One of my favourites was from Dr. Stephen Cadwell, good friend of the podcast, Ben.
Yes, yes.
Did you see his meme? He put us up a little meme about Watchmen, and it's Dr. Manhattan, Ben, and he's saying, it's 1989. I'm 8 years old. I'm watching a grittier reboot of Batman.
Oh, yeah.
It's 2004. I'm 28 years old. I'm watching a grim reboot of Batman. And then it's 2022. I'm 40 years old. I'm watching a grim reboot of Batman. But Ben, each one is grimmer and grittier.
Can't seem to get away from it, Michael. Can't seem to get away with it, or get away from it. Now, one of the things that I think separates the Batman is, I don't know why it gets away with it, but for me it gets away with it. I will not give it to Batman versus Superman. Too grim and gritty. We'll give it to the Batman. Absolutely fine. Don't know why.
Benjamin, maybe it's not the grim and grittiness. Maybe it's just, if a good film is grim and gritty, it's good. But if a bad film is grim and gritty, it's still bad.
Yeah, maybe someone should teach that to DC in general.
I don't know, Ben. Have you ever seen Aquaman?
Aquaman is very grim and gritty in its own way, Michael.
No, it isn't, Ben.
It's grim,
They're
gritty,
all
and
big
grand.
sharks. They're all big sharks.
They do ride around on big sharks. Come here,
and his
Michael.
mom is grand.
Aquaman 2 looks like it's going to be fairly grim and gritty, though. He's getting a black costume, which is the start. It's the start of grim and gritty syndrome. It's unavoidable. But come here to me, Michael. In comic books, it's something that Marvel seems to avoid like the plague now.
These days.
Yeah, Marvel will not touch it after the dark days of the X-Men franchise and not Fantastic Four. I don't think that could ever be accused of being grim and gritty. But the Raimi trilogy of Spider-Mans, those were all kind of grim, dark, kind of gothic-esque takes. I always think, Michael, that the Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man movies is very heavily based on Tim Burton's Batman. I think there's a lot of tonal setting moves there that are kind of borrowed, including heavy conversation pieces around Thanksgiving dinners. You know, that kind of thing. I think,
and Mary Jane being no crack whatsoever.
No banter whatsoever. The most hated thing of any Spider-Man film ever.
Nobody's having her.
Kirsten Dunst, Mary Jane.
No one's having her. No one wanted her brought back.
KDMJ. There was no petition.
No one's hoping, I hope they open another portal and Kirsten Dunst is there.
They didn't even touch it when it came to the thing. It's like, are you still with your Mary Jane? And Tobey Maguire's just like, it's complicated. It's like, what?
Complicated. Yeah, don't talk
Didn't
about it.
even work out in the fantasy world. Okay, cool. So that tone initially, I think it was almost a counterbalance, Michael, to the bright colours and tone of early comics.
Go on.
It's very hard to imagine a Silver Age comic book hero in real life. When you look at the comics, when you read the storylines, when you look at the villains, anything like that, they're not necessarily concepts that you could easily transition into real life.
Yes.
You don't see Batman in a grey leotard with a big blue cape, swinging batarangs around. You just don't see it.
I've seen it.
We've seen it in Adam West, but it just doesn't translate all that well to a modern sensibility, Michael.
Oh, very good. Okay.
If you like. So I think initially, when they were tackling these heroes, they obviously just went, well, it'd be ridiculous to be comic book accurate. It'd be awful silly to push that. So when we got our first ever Tobin Maguire costume,
yes,
it's a very muted scarlet and a very, very navy blue.
Yes, it's very muted.
It's not a bright red and a bright blue costume.
No, it isn't. And in fact, neither was Andrew Garfield's.
Neither was Andrew Garfield's. They're all kept very serious, sleek and slimline, Michael. When we look at the Green Goblin, he didn't get his classic big purple hat and pointy ears or grotesque face. What he got was like a cool suit of armour.
There was nothing cool about that, Ben. There was
nothing
ridiculous.
cool about it. That's fair. That's fair. But they obviously looked at it and went, "Oh, we just can't get away with this." Like Doc Ock never wore his orange and green jumpsuit. We got Alfred Molina topless in a kind of trench coat. A duncher.
Oh, very good. Yeah, a topless doctor. Benjamin, I always liked Dr. Octopus in a lab coat. That's always been my favourite Dr. Octopus.
Oh, it's a classic. It's a classic, Michael. We didn't even get that, though. What we got was Dr. Octopus in a duncher. A big old heavy coat. It was no good. I haven't gotten that right. Duster. I meant to say duster twice there. Didn't say it.
I thought you invented a new type of coat, yeah.
That's a type of hat, Michael. A duncher is a type of hat.
I don't know anything about hats, Ben, because I'm cool now.
Because you're cool and you don't wear hats. I bet you you'd know if I said a cool pair of sunglasses. Sorry, I'm still not used to saying sunglasses.
I can't.
Can't take them off, Michael. They're on now.
Can't take them off, Ben. They're on now.
This is your life now. Michael's
like
just struggled to take those sunglasses. Yeah, it's just they can't come off. You're cool now, Michael. There's no escape.
Benjamin.
But yeah.
So your contention is all films are grim and gritty because of 1989's Batman.
No, I think initially when we got that, I think the argument I'm trying to make here, Michael, is why are certain films still grim and gritty within the sphere of superheroics, or why are some films still grim and gritty in general when the taste for it has kind of gone away? And let's get into that a little bit more, right?
All right. Let's get into it. You tell me what you're talking about.
Initially, it was a counterbalance to that big, bright superheroics that just you really couldn't stomach on a screen. You were just like, no, it's silly. I can't put that on screen. But then almost automatically from a DC point of view, DC never got the memo on that. So what we got one of the days was Man of Steel.
Yes. Oh, very grim and gritty.
Very grim and gritty, Michael. Doesn't work for the character whatsoever. There is nothing grim and gritty about Superman unless you read The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller. In which case he's a weird bootlicker Clark Kent.
Yeah, he's
the whole
weird.
thing.
Nobody
but
liked
what we got in that one, Michael, was Zack Snyder directing a bloody... Was it Zack Snyder? Am I wrong there?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was, yeah.
I think it was Zack, yeah. Good old Snyderino. Yeah. And he stepped in and he was like, oh yeah, let's do Superman, but let's make him cool.
Cool and grim and gritty.
Let's make him cool and grim and gritty. So how are we going to do that, sir? Well, we're going to get Kurt Russell to be his dad. Oh, cool. Very grim. Very gritty. We're going to make his homeworld a weird fantasy-scape with dragon-type monsters and big dragonfly steeds and stuff. Oh, what? Sorry? Explain that again to me? Yeah, it's going to have dragonflies in it. Oh, cool.
Cool robotic dragonflies. No, real dragonflies. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Then obviously one of the execs came in and said, I'm sorry, sir, Kurt Russell's not available. Will Russell Crowe do?
Oh, did I say Kurt Russell?
Yes, he said, I suppose that's all you'll have to do, I suppose.
Kurt Russell is busy working with James Gunn on a secret Marvel project. Is it grim and gritty? Actually, no. No, it isn't.
Not at all, not really.
Yeah, but come here to me. Then they were like, oh, you know what? Superman is too good. What should we do? Let's put him in an armed forces ad where he works on an oil rig and in a cafe and, on the road near Alaska. And yeah, let's do that. That'll be good. Because people have always wondered, what did Superman do when he wasn't being Superman? Oh, he worked in a bar, a truck stop. Yeah.
So you don't like the Man of Steel, obviously, is what you're kind of getting at.
No, I don't like the tone of it, Michael, because it's not Superman. And then they committed the greatest sin of all, which is introducing the fact that Superman has to make a moral choice at the end, and he chooses to murder General Zod.
Yeah, he snapped his neck, Ben. It's a big controversy.
Yeah,
10 years
big controversy, because it's not what Superman does. You don't do that. It's not what Superman does.
He did it in the film Man of Steel.
Yeah, I forgot about that, Michael. He did it in the film Man of Steel. Now, come here to me. That's fine, right? And you think that DC did their dalliance and it didn't do very well. And it didn't even get a sequel, Michael. And that's okay. You would think that they'd learn their lesson. But they then pursued that tone in Batman vs. Superman and Justice League the Snyder Cut, which actually poured on more grim and gritty on top of everything else. And they just kept going. And Michael, the question for me is, why did they think that was a good idea?
Because, Ben, whatever happened in pop culture in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, Every reboot had to be grim and gritty.
It's true.
There's no such thing as a less mature reboot. Every reboot is always grimmer and grittier, Ben. Even the Turtles got grim and gritty reboots.
Yeah, do you remember that?
But, I mean, obviously the Turtles is a weird one because the Turtles originally were grim and gritty.
I think they were grim and gritty by early 80s standards. I don't know if they were grim and gritty by today's standards.
No, we're talking about the original Turtles. The first comic book Turtles by Eastman and Laird.
The mental comic book. Yeah.
And it was a little comic book, Benjamin, a little independently published comic book, which was a kind of a grim and gritty piss take of the Daredevil and the X-Men.
Yeah, the Frank Millers of the world.
Exactly. And then, Ben, that got kiddified.
Big time.
But then, as every franchise does, then tended towards grim and gritty and serious as it went on, to the point that they became cool, edgy, dangerous killing machines instead of four dweebs.
Yeah, they had like white eyes. They did the Batman trope of like the white eyes behind the masks.
They were Batman for a while, Benjamin. Benjamin, one of the all-time greatest grim and gritty reboots, and it just goes to speak to whatever psychologically we feel as humans that makes us think that if you're redoing something, the only way to do it is to make it more mature and grimmer and grittier, is Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Oh, that is the peak grim and gritty, Michael.
What are they thinking, Ben?
So dark.
So dark and grim and gritty.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Michael, that entire Riverdale saga, that Archie Comics thing, somebody just took the piss there and went, do you know what? We should just do it completely the opposite direction.
Sexy and grim and gritty.
Just make them all sexy and grim and gritty. Just do that. And they did, Michael. It was really weird.
It's one of your favourites. One of your favourites, Ben.
I mean, Sabrina in the early days, Michael, is a teen drama for lack of anything else. It just happens to have a magical realism element to it in the early episodes especially. And then obviously jump the shark there a bit and Sabrina just goes full on magic for a long time. Then they kind of hauled it back when Sabrina went off to university. They were like, oh, well, maybe we'll just get rid of the magic and turn it into a weird kind of coming of age adult three women living in a house together. Let's get the old aunts out of there.
Are you talking about the original Sabrina or the new one?
The original Sabrina. I'm talking about the original Sabrina.
Okay, you're talking about the original one.
So in that one, that's fine. And it wasn't really magic. Just happened to be a consequence of the world that Sabrina found herself in. There was a talking cat. It was very humorous. The two aunts were very funny, very humorous people. There was Mr. Kraft, classic principal.
You're just naming characters. Have you looked up Sabrina the Teenage Witch? Benjamin,
no, I remember this very well. I used to watch Sabrina on the Den every day after school.
What I would love, Benjamin,
go on,
is a reboot to ungrim and gritty something.
Oh yeah, a soft reboot.
I would love but you'd have to you'd be retaking the term soft reboot.
A gentle reboot then.
Yeah, it would be a gentle,
a fluffy reboot.
An ungrim and gritty. I'm sure it's happened, but
a descale reboot.
It even happened to Sonic, Ben. Sonic Hedgehog. Aww. Now, obviously, Sonic 2 is coming out, and I even though Knuckles is Idris Elba and he certainly sounds gritty and grim, I still don't think Sonic 2 is going to be grim and gritty. But there's a whole period in the mid-2000s where everything Sonic related was grim and gritty and horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. The mid-2000s has a lot to answer for, Michael. We saw the wave of edgy, futuristic cartoon characters come to light. One of those is exactly what you described there is Sonic. Then we got, I'm trying to think of other ones now off the top of my head. We got a Transformers reboot in there somewhere, mid-2000s.
All very dark. There's a Transformers reboot every couple of years.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't count then towards my argument at all, does it?
Yeah, there's always Transformers reboots.
Oh, that's really unfortunate.
And they vary wildly between comical and childish and grim and gritty and horrible.
All right, okay. We'll have to do a deep dive into that someday on the podcast, Michael. That'll make you happy.
A whole thing about Transformers. I love Transformers, Ben. I would talk about Transformers all day.
Michael. You're a big fan of Transformers.
All day, every day.
We did get things like Spider-Man 2099, Batman Beyond, things like that, and it became a real thing to create kind of cartoons around a kind of dark future. We got weird dystopian cartoon versions of things that we'd become familiar with. Now, in the case of Batman Beyond, it wasn't that big a deal. It was just an extension of the Batman universe because Batman the Animated Series had been so bloody successful.
But that's probably the reason for grim and gritty cartoons.
Go on, then.
Well, they famously painted the whole thing on black paper.
Yeah, completely against the standards of the time.
I don't know if you get any grimmer or grittier than black paper, Ben.
Yeah, but there's a lot of heart to it. It's more stylized than actual tonal things. But then in stuff like Spider-Man 2099 and it's not Spider-Man 2099. I can't remember what it was called. Maybe it was.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You never see the future one where Peter Parker gets thrown into the future.
What's he doing in the future?
As Spider-Man. He falls into a warp hole, Michael, and the whole premise of the series is him trying to get back. Back to the past, like Samurai Jack.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Michael. But anyway, we got a lot of that. But again, it's such a 90s thing. And again, this was true in the cinema of the time as well. The 90s was a very dark time when people realised the world really isn't that great. And we got things
Seven.
like... Yeah, we got things like Seven. And the psychological thriller hit its all-time high. And then we had our post-Fight Club era where everything was cynical. And even cartoons weren't safe. Do you know what I mean? We even had to make them grim and gritty. And I think we had that watershed moment in the 90s where everything had to be serious because the world wasn't a fun place anymore because we discovered all kinds of things about the world. And maybe, the United States wasn't the greatest country in the world, which a lot of people knew already, but the United States has been slow to catch up on. But in general, we've had the toppling of kind of a perfect little world, that afterglow of post-World War II calm kind of faded away, and we could argue that it's faded away even more these days, but the world became a much more cynical place, and cinema responded, and film responded, and media in general kind of responded by just being like, oh yeah, it's not so great, is it?
But Benjamin,
yeah,
your thesis here, your guiding question on this is, why won't grim and gritty go away?
Well, that's what I mean.
But my kind of feeling is it kind of has a bit. To the point where, okay, the Marvel fucking formula, let's call it, is very anti-grim and gritty. Very much so. Now, Ben, as you know, no great fan of anything in Phase 4 have I been.
No, you haven't.
Spider-Man has been the standout one. I suppose that was a bit grim and gritty, but not really. It's not a grim and gritty film.
No.
And the big hit of grim and gritty is the Batman. But the Batman is grim and gritty to the point of being notable. Like, it stands out as the grimmest and grittiest thing we've seen in a while.
Ridiculously gritty.
So, I mean, if the Batman had come out in the era of Seven, Fight Club, I don't know, Dark City.
Yeah, okay.
The Matrix. If it had come out then...
There's a little gem from the past.
We should do an exhumed episode on it.
Yeah, we should do an exhumed episode on Dark City.
Benjamin, if it had come out then, in the era of everything's raining and everything's gross, I think it would have been very notable. Or it wouldn't have been as notable. But the fact that things these days, entertainment these days, isn't as grim and gritty overall is what made it stand out so much.
Yeah, I suppose it's in such stark contrast. And Matt Reeves went on a real kind of rant about how he didn't want to be a standard superhero movie. And James Gunn quite often goes on that rant now as well.
Go on.
Where they don't want to do the standard superhero movie. And the standard superhero movie, for better or worse, is the Marvel formula now.
It very much is, Benjamin. Would you describe Peacemaker as grim and gritty?
No. I wouldn't. It should be. It's got all the hallmarks. Secret government organizations, heavy violence.
Yeah.
Dark themes. But James Gunn just loves a twisted little dance.
And it's fun and bright and frolicky.
Yeah.
The MCU Netflix cinematic universe, or as it's now known, Ben, on Disney Plus, the Defenders saga.
Yes.
They were grim and gritty for sure.
They were. Daredevil was one of the grimmest and grittiest things that we've seen.
As was Jessica Jones season 1.
Punisher, remember that?
Punisher, Ben, so grim, so gritty, everyone's getting
so
stabbed
grim, so gritty.
Hit with weights. And in fact, looking back on it, the grim and grittiness of that were the highlights of it, probably because it was so different at the time.
Yeah, because it was a breath of fresh air, Michael. Perhaps grim and gritty then is necessary for us to appreciate the candy floss that we consume so often.
Oh, very clever, Benjamin. I think like everything, you have to have a wide palette.
A wide palette, you say?
If you just have grim and gritty all the time, then it's going to be boring.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard what Mick say. A wide palette. Okay,
that's a little rhyme there.
Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of the grim and gritty kind of things that plague our media these days? Do you enjoy a grim and gritty film? Was the Batman too grim and gritty? What do you think the purpose of grim and gritty things are? Do they serve to remind us that the world is not so bright a place? Do they serve to undermine the golden towers we build in our minds? Let us know in a couple of different places. You can find us on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, seomrabeag.com.
It means a tiny room, kind of in Irish.
A little bit, sort of, yeah. You can find us on Instagram at Sure Look, Sure Listen Podcast.
Oh, we're always up there. There was a whole thing about the Batman, but then Ben got the clap and had to take a break.
I got very sick. And then
I should point out, Ben, it was the clap of the lungs, not the clap
of the lungs. Yes,
not
thank
the
you for pointing that
sexual
out,
clap.
Mick.
Yeah, not the sexual
very kind
clap.
of you. Very kind of you at the end of the episode,
for
where
any
most of the
listeners.
listeners have definitely tuned out. But you can find us there as well. But the best place to get in touch with us, ladies and gentlemen, is to get up on that Discord, baby.
Hop up on it, Ben.
Hop up on it. You can join us, if you haven't had enough of us this week, on Wednesday, where we'll be taking a look at a bloody brand new superhero little franchise called Radiant Black.
Oh, you were telling me all about this.
We'll be taking a look at that. It's Invincible meets Power Rangers. Very good, very good.
Oh, where is it?
It's going to be dropped off to you as soon as possible. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us. Bye-bye.
Oh, Ben, what are we talking about next week? Tell the listeners.
Oh, sorry. Next week, we'll be taking a look at bloody urban fantasy, ladies and gentlemen, with special guest and friend of the podcast, Connor.
Oh, my God, I hope he's on time. What's urban fantasy?
Urban fantasy is magic in the big city.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like Sex in the City, but with wands and stuff.
Like Shadow Hunters, Ben.
Yeah, a bit like that, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right.
Like Dark City.
Sure, listen. We'll see you then.
Oh, see you next week.
Bye.